thank you for joining me for my coffee break, Morbius. I know you don't drink coffee.
I've got orange juice this morning.
It is my first coffee of the day, yes. Um, so in my the way I view Star Wars is it not only changed how special effects were done because a lot of the special effects were practical in Star Wars, but it also changed how science fiction movies were done because it proved that science fiction movies could be the A movie, not the B movie back when movies were double features like that. It also proved that science fiction could be taken seriously. Not all some some I you've said you've been watching classic science fiction. Do they take themselves as seriously as Star Wars does?
It depends on who made it, how much budget they had, and who wrote the script. For example, the movie Forbidden Planet from 1956 took itself very seriously. They invented new technologies for special effects, and it was more of a drama that was set on another planet than it was, just a cheesy monster movie. The movie was about a starship crew in the 23rd century that goes to investigate a colony that has gone radio silent on the far edge of the galaxy. When they arrive, there's only two surviving colonists, this big robot, and a deadly secret of a lost civilization. The two people that are survivors are Dr. Morbius and his daughter. Recognize the name?
Is that where you got the name Morbius?
It is, in fact. I used the name Morbius for one of my Dungeons and Dragons characters back in the 70s, and in the 80s, when home computers were starting to proliferate, I used it as my hacker name, Dr. Morbius.
So, where how did it go from Doctor to Lord?
Oh, Dr. Morbius was the character from the movie. I just liked the sound of the name Morbius, so I created a wizard named Morbius in Dungeons and Dragons. But when it came to technology and hacking, Dr. Morbius seemed more appropriate.
Was Forbidden Planet a was Forbidden Planet the A movie, or was it still considered a B movie?
It's definitely an A movie, although most people take all science fiction movies from that era and slop them into the same category of being B movies. Now, a lot of them were on cheap budgets where it's basically just you got a monster and it's a guy in a rubber suit and he comes from beyond the stars or he's a Frankenstein monster or something like that. And that's what the movie is about, or it's a giant spider or something. This one had a very involved plot. You've got an alien civilization that went extinct thousands and thousands of years ago that the colonists have discovered. And they had this amazing technology where they have these apparatus that you wear on your head that enhances your psychic brain power. Now, these aliens were huge in comparison to humans. You can tell by the doorways and things how they're shaped. But Dr. Morbius was using this headset to expand his own psychic power, and it made an alteration to his brain in the process because it wasn't designed to work on humans. Whenever he went to sleep, his id, his inner being, manifested his dreams in reality, and he was having these recurring nightmares. So, out of pure psychic energy, there was this invisible monster that had killed off the rest of the colony. And when the astronauts came from Earth to investigate why the colony went silent, it started killing them off as well. And while you couldn't see the monster because it was invisible, it left these big claw shaped footprints in the ground. So they had to go through an entire CSI type thing to investigate and figure out exactly what it was they were dealing with.
Did you ever see this movie in theaters then, or did you just home release?
I saw it on cable and home release, and I got a digital copy now. In addition to this alien, it was created out of the psychic energy of Dr. Morbius's nightmares. The company that produced it spent $100,000 to build a robot suit. In 1956, $100,000 was an enormous sum of money to spend on a prop for a movie. And the robot suit they built was called Robbie the Robot. You may have heard the name.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Well, with such an enormous expenditure to build a robot suit, the studio wanted to get their money's worth out of the investment. A number of different people were inside the robot suit making it work, but Robbie the robot wasn't just a character in the movie, he was an actor entity in and of itself. He went on to appear in 11 different motion pictures and 21 guest appearances on various TV shows, from the original Forbidden Planet in 1956 to the most recent. It was 2014 when he had a single appearance on an episode of, I think it was Young Sheldon.
Do you watch Young Sheldon? And if you do, is it a good show?
I do not. Young Sheldon was a spinoff of the Big Bang Theory, if I remember correctly, and I didn't watch that one either. I didn't have time when they were originally running, and haven't got around to catching up on that sort of thing. But Robbie the Robot has become a pop culture icon because of all the appearances. He's famous, legendary.
When I think of movies before Star Wars, I think of things like the original Thing or the Blob or Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Plan 9 from Outer Space is the epitome of the B movie. When you make a movie with a budget of $5,000, which is about what, 4 or 5 months' pay for most people, that's not exactly a summer blockbuster.
B movies can still be entertaining though, can't they?
B movies are entertaining in a different context. You can have a drama that keeps you on the edge of your seat. You can have an adventure movie that gets your adrenaline pumping and gets you all charged up to enjoy the picture. Or you can have a comedy that makes you laugh your butt off. But B movies were intended to be serious, but because of the extremely low budget, you have to change your mindset and look at it as more of a comedy spoof of what it's supposed to be. And when you do that, they become hilarious. Like Plan 9 from Outer Space. The flying saucers are literally Oldsmobile hubcaps suspended on strings. Low budget.
Do you also watch horror movies or just science fiction movies?
I watch science fiction, fantasy, horror, comedies, occasional dramas.
Have you ever watched The Toxic Avenger?
I saw that one back in the 80s. I think I rented it in a video shop back when those were still a thing.
I've watched The Toxic Avenger, and while it is a horror movie that is a gory, very gory horror movie, basically about a superhero from New Jersey. New Jersey's most famous superhero, I think. I could be wrong there. But it is, you can still tell the passion that everyone had in that movie when you watch it, even though it is a corny, low budget horror movie.
I think The Toxic Avenger, from its conception, was intended to be a comedy spoof of actual splatter gore movies. I mean, you can tell by some of the jokes in it. The criminal gang boss, it's not Scarface, it's Cigar Face because he keeps burning his victims with a cigar butt. Things like that. And the gore and the violence is over the top, on a comedic level, as it's intended to be.
Even with all that, you can still see when watching the movie that the people behind it wanted to make a good movie, cared about the movie. Well, maybe not wanted to make a good movie, but cared about the movie, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, you could tell that the people who made the movie were kind of like me. I appreciate that kind of movie that they're making a comedy spoof of, and I also enjoy comedy spoofs. So people who can actually appreciate the kind of movies they're making fun of, B movies, have the passion for the movie. People who enjoy comedy spoofs, which is also people like me, put the time and energy into making a quality picture out of it. Yes. What was that one movie? I think it was a Tim Burton movie, Invaders from Mars, or where they had the big brain puppet aliens.
Something about Mars.
Well, anyway, you could tell they had a decent budget and they had a decent quality movie, and at the same time, they were doing a comedy spoof of the old, flying saucer movies from the 50s. That was also in the category of the Toxic Avenger. I mean, it's aware of what it is and it's poking fun of itself, but it's still a good movie in the process.
Maybe you can help explain something to me that doesn't fully make sense to me. Why did they take the Toxic Avenger and make it into a kids' TV show?
Well, that's a good question. The kids' TV show was one of many aspects of the movie. The movie was made by adults for adults as a comedy spoof, but kids have their phases they go through. They like robots, they like dinosaurs, that kind of stuff. Most kids really are entertained by the hyper violent splatter movies, the gore fest. So it was real popular with the kids, but in order to make a kids TV show out of it, there are certain regulations that govern Hollywood studios that you can't be too over the top or too adult in your themes as far as violence and things go. And that's how it gets translated into a kids program, if that makes any sense. They did the same thing with the Men in Black movies when they made the Men in Black cartoon. Remember that one?
The Men in Black movies aren't gory comedy. The Men in Black movies aren't gory comedy horror movies like the Toxic Avenger 4 movies are.
The Men in Black movies had aliens that got splattered across the landscape with goo and stuff raining down out of the sky all over people. That's pretty gory, except that it's not red blood, it's the blue green crap or whatever they had inside of them. And they had the over the top things like the squid alien giving birth and reaching out with a tentacle, grabbing Will Smith and slinging around the sky. Remember that?
I guess it. I guess people have a different. I guess people care. I guess people care less about how gory a movie is if it's not humans that are being put through a blender.
I don't know so much about people, but I know the industry censors don't care as much because it's obviously not real. If you were doing that to a human being, they would have a conniption fit over it. There was a movie made in the 1960s by George Romero called Night of the Living Dead. Oh my God, it was so horrible. It's got the dead coming back to life and eating people. Oh, I wanted to ban it in all these states, things like that. If you actually watch the movie by modern day standards, it's kind of slow paced and boring. Special effects aren't all that gory, even. But the premise of the dead coming back to life and eating human beings freaked out the censors at the time.
I wish I
Um,
could. I wish I could stay and talk to you longer, but my coffee break's over and I have to get back to work. I'll talk to you later.
I'll see you next time. Have a good one.